realize it's supposed to be work right now. All of these things. So let's just give everyone a moment on what we're going to be talking today. Today, I want to talk about tomorrow's upcoming Sagittarius new moon. It's Vesta, Sedna, the Pleiades, and what that means for us at this time of reflection and being. I see one person. Hello, Sharon. Yeah, good to see you. I see one person. Hello, Sharon. Yeah, good to see you. Hold on a second, and see if something good and productive can come of this. Sharanya asks, this question I will field. How are you doing, Dr. B? I'm trying. I'm trying. Health is up and down, but I think there is some incremental progress. So, bit by bit, day by day, one just keeps having to stay at it. Melissa says, hello, Dr. B and the kitties. Hello. Jessica says, good morning from the UK. Thanks for your live. You're most welcome. Michi says, hi, Dr. Bhairavi. Hi, Michi. How are you? How's your baby? And Rita says, peace. Good. We've got a good crowd on. So, V. Stormfeld says, Comrade Trouble and I are here. Tawty Ragdoll Kitty. Thumbs up. Okay, good crowd. Let's get started. So right now, we have just like minutes ago, those of you energy sensitives in tune with the Western tropical astrological system, as I am, would have felt shifting happening. I sat down, I sat in front of my computer, and I was like, something is about to happen. And it was 4 minutes away from the sun shifting into Sagittarius. And for me, it's a very precise thing. I don't mean to diss other people's beliefs or other people's system, but I can only go with what I can see as being accurate and in alignment with changes in energy. And different people will feel for different things, and that's okay. But for me, it was very clear, just in those few moments before the sun shifted into Sagittarius officially. It's just those last few moments and a certain kind of excitement, the kind of excitement you feel like when a rocket is launched. All of that oil, all of that flame, all of that stuff coming out and billowing with soap as soap with smoke as it goes up into its destination. It just kind of felt a little bit like that. And that's really that shift between Scorpio to Sagittarius. It has nothing to do with soap. Um, but effectively, we've been churning. We've been churning in very deep, very profound ways. We're still churning, but it's the kind of energy that gives us that lift. It gives us that thrust, that push to go into a new direction and a new journey. And by that, I don't mean the boy band. But effectively, with the sun in Sagittarius, we have about 30 days to look forward to this increased momentum, this increased speed, this sensation of movement. And I believe in the tarot, it's the Six of Swords, is it, that comes up with one of the key significators of this, the navigator. But effectively, that's the kind of energy where we need to go in a certain direction. And I know it seems like very obvious because everyone knows Sagittarius is about pointing at the path, but it's one thing saying it and it's another thing feeling it. And for me, the feeling is ultimately more important than the saying. So when I'm actually speaking, especially when I'm like fully in tune with spirit, I can't even look at the camera, which is why my eyes are closed a lot when I'm totally in the flow. Because it is ultimately about that deep and profound feeling that comes. A lot of the time people get confused. What path do I take? What road do I take? What label am I? How do I navigate and narrate what I'm doing? Because humanity has relied too much on the significator, on the symbol, on the semiotic, on the icon, on the label, rather than the actual experience of being. For me, the more I journey with spirit, the less able I am to use the terms that we have collectively come up with, not for better or worse reasons. It's just it doesn't fit as well. So when you're asking me, or well, those of you who are asking me, well, what does Sagittarius mean to you? What does it mean to you to be on the path? What do you call that? There is no calling, you know. There is no calling. There is no um, There is no label, there is no way of describing what it is to be on the path, except that you are on the path. That's the core thing. And a lot of people forget that simply by doing what they are doing every day, by being who they are, by walking the way they are walking, they are taking a step towards a destination that they do not know. A lot of the time, people feel the need to have that label beforehand, before going, before journeying, before doing. They want to have that little thing that says, "This is the path I take," and it's a very human desire to have that. But when you walk with spirit, letting go of those labels, letting go of that certainty, is what tends to happen over time. So, for tomorrow's Sagittarian new moon, I would say don't worry about the label, don't worry about the words. Focus on whatever your experience of being takes you to do. Now, I was just doing a very quick live on Instagram, so I'm repeating a bit of information from there. But if what you want to see more of on your on the road, on the path you take, if what you want to see more of is more joy, then focus on doing and being and embodying more joy, which is being confirmed by our boy cat. Josh is our little embodiment of joy. So I was mentioning his particular job, which he likes doing, so he started talking. But effectively, if you want more joy on your path, that is what you need to be doing. If you want more grace on your path, that is what you are meant to be being. Focus on what you want and be it. Do it. Experience it. A lot of people get caught up in the technology that we associate with manifestation, through the words, through the rituals, through different ways of knowing, different ways of engaging with energy. And honestly speaking, that tends to actually block us away from spirit, because the technology and rhetoric of manifestation is still a form of egoic control. So, which is why I can't do it. Even if I try it, it just doesn't, the long term results are not worth it. But what we ultimately need to come into the understanding of is that we don't need any technology beyond our presence, beyond our breath, beyond our being. That's all we need to do to create this relationship with spirit. And ultimately, spirituality comes down to that relationship. It's really very simple. People overcomplicate it, but it comes down to that relationship that you have with that force of creation. And you do not need anything or anyone beyond your own presence and your awareness of what the divine is. If you want to call that nature, great. If you want to call that the universe, great. If you want to call that the cosmos, great. That's up to you. Now, this particular new moon is very spirit led because of several reasons. Tomorrow's new moon will also be aspecting Vesta and Pisces, Sedna at the last degree of Taurus, and also the Pleiades in Gemini. And these are all very powerful feminine astrological influences and alignments. Vesta and Pisces will be pushing some of you to dedicate yourself to something because of a name, because of a label, because of a particular technology of control or knowledge, which are very often they overlap. And at the same time, others will be moving more towards dissolution, going, you know what, I don't need this as a crutch anymore. But it really depends where you are, what you're doing, and whether or not you are willing to let go of the middleman, so to speak. Which is one of the reasons why it is very hard to find bona fide mystics in the here and now, simply because people are still relying to those middleman technologies. But effectively, that's the big challenge that's coming up. Sedna's role at the tail end of Taurus is something that reminds us that whatever our path is still needs to attend to the traumas that are held in the body, the biology, or rather the way in which biology holds a particular type of material and spiritual history of a being. Acknowledge that. Whatever path that we need to take also needs to acknowledge the pain that the earth, the environment itself, has felt from years and years and years of degradation, almost solely through human activity in an imbalanced way. whatever our path needs to take us to these spaces of pain within ourselves. And if we are called to look outwards within the larger, wider material context that we live in, and to look at how we, through our breath, through our presence, through our being, choose to respond to this. Now, some of you may be seeing this as an invitation to basically go big, commit to huge things, dedicate yourself to service, decide that sacrifice and suffering is the way to go. Some of you will do that, and others will simply wait, observe, watch, and be receptive. It is ultimately, spirituality is a co-creative relationship. There are times when you act and there are times when you listen. I would say listen first and allow the instruction, or if you want to call it instruction, allow the guidance, allow the knowing to emerge from within you if you do not know what to do. The fact that the Pleiades is also aspecting this particular new moon coming up, for some of you, it can bring up very strong channeling from that particular star system. And a lot of people do that, but there are aspects of the Pleiades that are not necessarily positive either. Very few people think about that, very few people talk about that. So, whatever you're doing, make sure that you are communicating with something that is actually legit. Just because it carries a certain label doesn't necessarily mean that it's 100% okay. So, these are things to also bear in mind. Um, there is going to be a strong level of communication, especially amongst people who do high level psychic work, and not everything you hear is going to be great. Not everything you hear is going to be true. Ultimately, you have to realize that this is a choice. All that you manifest, all that you do, all that you are comes by product of what you choose to do. Just remember that your choices are not always conscious. What you think you are doing may not exactly be what the rest of your subconscious is doing. And that is something you also need to take into account very, very clearly. We will also see, we will also be seeing Jupiter stationing direct, which is a blessing, especially in late Pisces. So there can be, I would say, a different chapter in all of this churning, swirling, whirling cosmic energy that has been coming up, and perhaps some light through the karmic density that has also been very heavily affecting all of us in the past few weeks. So these are also things to also consider and look forwards to. One word of caution: we do see a fair few activations to Venus in Sagittarius, especially with respect to Therius coming up. In with the idea that spirituality is ultimately a relationship between you and what you consider the divine, what is true, what is good, what is beyond yourself, whatever word you want to use. Bear in mind that life is also made up in many ways of sets and series of relationships. Your relationship with the people around you, with the beings around you, with the environment, with the people you work with. All of these are different layers of energy. All of these carry different karmic structures, which also shape your path. Now, look at what these connections bring into your life. Are they things that bring greater vulnerability? Is this a good or a bad thing? Or are they things that actually bring you greater knowledge? Or are they things that actually distract you from where you need to be? Evaluate your relationships and be sure that they bring in what it is that is actually truly in alignment with you and with the path that you need to be following at this time. And remember, the only person who can answer that for you is already right here within yourself. I mean, it's good to get guidance, it's good to get external confirmation or just different perspectives from time to time. But ultimately, what you need is already within you. And ultimately, spirituality is really dead simple. People overcomplicate it. Maybe they don't want to believe it is that simple, but it comes back down to the basics. So that's what I wanted to say in terms of the astrology of things, just as a quick heads up, things to watch out for. Don't be too keen to jump into something just because it has the label of spirituality. Some of the most spiritual people I know have no label, and very often that tends to be a mark, a sign to me that, yeah, this person probably knows what they're talking about. So, just give yourself a break from that need to have that strong sense of definition, which in itself is another form of control. So having said that, let us look at some questions if there are any. Da, 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 da. The other Sharanya is here too. Hi. Hello. Barbara says greetings from Slovenia. Greetings to you. Vernie says hello, Dr. B. Hello. V. Stormfeld says, don't like it. The vibes are off. Matter of opinion. Nothing much I can do about that. Watchman says, evening, baby. Hello, brother. Nice to see you. Sharanya says, manifestation techniques, does it actually work? Isn't manifestation a byproduct of healing? Whether something works is not the same as whether it is a technology of control or not. Ultimately, when you are with spirit, truly with spirit, you do not need to ask for anything. You do not need to do anything. It is already there. If you're still looking at an intermediary step, you are still holding on to a crutch. If if you actually look at the lives of saints, mystics, people who have been touched by the divine, yeah, these were people who were battling demons that the most of you would faint at. These people were dealing with wounds so big that you will never ever find a library enough to hold all of that in. Healing is part of the journey, healing is part of the process. But the point is, the technology and language of manifestation tends to separate us from spirit. It is a very, very idealized and intellectual relationship with spirit that is also instrumental. So the more you actually analyze the rhetoric of it, and I have done this for years, the more you see that this is not actually needed. That is one of the biggest challenges that a more, when I say feminine, I do mean it also in a way that is inclusive of non-binary expressions of the feminine, but it is what one may call a more feminine approach to spirituality does not require any of this. And that is one of the reasons why that space of being and not requiring and simple presence was demonized and vilified for thousands of years. So, long answer to your question, but yes. Cesra says, Kia ora, Dr. B, and oh wow, my son's name is Josh. He's chatty too. Oh, love and blessings always. Thank you. Yes, Josh is the most expressive of the little fellows in the household. See, Charles says, wonderful to see you again. Thank you for sharing your time and energy with us. Most welcome. Michi says, Sagittarius hates labels. Yes and no. Yes and no. It doesn't like labels when it's trying to figure out what it wants. But there's a reason why Sagittarius is also associated with the archetype of the guru. Once it is close to the top, it likes the label. But when it's still figuring out, it doesn't always like it because it feels like, it's inhibiting its freedom. But once it gets to a certain place, that again becomes a technology of control. That's why you see a lot of gifted teachers start out, be very open, and the moment they find something that works, they kind of get stuck in their own ideology and they get stagnant, and they will need cycles of reincarnation to get out of what they put themselves in. Again, long story. Any questions with what has been said so far? I shall give you a little time. I know that is a fair bit to process. Tasha says hello. Hello, Tasha. So, waiting for any questions that may have emerged. Take your time. Don't worry, I'm not in a rush. Well, Spirit basically says, today you talk. So I said, all right, fine. Alia Hazel says, hello, Dr. B. Hello, Alia. Nice to see you. Nice to see you. I see quite a few names I haven't seen in a bit, so that's very good. Greg, I know you're listening. Tell me if there's anything. Da, 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 da. This is either intense deep processing or shocked silence or agreement or all of the above. Amber says, with Vesta transits, it depends on your relationship with it, Vesta is one of those, I think probably Vesta, Therius, Juno, Black Moon, Lilith, these are probably some of the asteroids I've done the most spiritual research on. But Vesta isn't about fixity. Vesta is about what you devote yourself. You also, in some cases, letting go is precisely what you need to do. So, it's very flexible. Alias is wondering relationship between Vesta and Therius. Interesting question, not necessarily. Um, uh, I mean, tell me why you're asking that question. I might be able to address it a bit better. Just interest this time. Really, very, very. It's really subjective. Just because what brings out a better path for someone is not going to be the same for somebody else, but as like a very rudimentary thing. If you're someone who struggles with, analysis, order, and logic, sodalite would be a good stone to use right now. And if you're someone who really needs to get out of your head really, and back into your body, something like tiger iron or tiger's eye may be a lot more effective. But it depends on the person, it depends where they are. Framing this question with respect indicates able to get that information to invest in. But no necessary relationship. They're two very different energies. Michi says yes to balance Gemini energy. Yeah, that's a very interesting one. Gemini energy will be very, very strongly influenced at this time, especially with the Pleiades involved in tomorrow's new moon. I mean, ultimately, in a very practical way, if you don't know what else to do, just do it. Very simple, very slow. It doesn't have to be something grand. That's not what this is about. Sow and grow. Laura says, hello, thank you for this. I'm a Sagittarius and I'm so relieved this time for the sun to enter Sagittarius. It's been a long few weeks. I completely agree with you. I completely agree with you. So hopefully I have, and all of us have, an enjoyable Sagittarian season. Of course, there's more change coming up. There's more things that are going to happen, but this is the thing. This is the current state of reality that we are inhabiting. We chose to be here at this time of intense and accelerated change. If we truly did not want to be here, we would not be here. There are very few circumstances in which that can be broken. Very, very rare, very, very few. But ultimately, this is why we are here right now, to experience, to adapt, and to evolve. What we are doing in a week, 20 years ago, may have taken a month, may have even taken a year, may have even taken a lifetime for some people. So what you got to also understand is the level of intensity increasing. The level of intensity is rising. And that is why you need spirit at this time and what you are ultimately looking for in your life. And if you feel that things are too complicated, if you feel like you don't have any answers, take a step back and find someone who can give you perspective. Very often, the biggest obstacle between us and spirit is what is in our own conscious minds. And it's very human, the way we understand human right now. It's very human to want to have some means of control. But that is not what the road is about, ultimately speaking. It's how you make a business about the road, but it's not necessarily the road itself. Let's see what we have. Dream ascension. Interesting. Peace, peace. My first time here. Hello, hello. I can make this a short video. I think I've covered the basic points that need to be covered at this time. Okay. Ayla says, I quite honestly am not sure why this question. I suppose Therius has been around as is disturbing. Yes, it has. Perhaps I'm hoping for Vesta's energy to have some remedy for us. Maybe it's something specific to your chart. Maybe the two are related in your chart, so you feel it in that way. But, ultimately, Vesta and Pisces, as it is right now, Vesta and Pisces is all about, again, that relationship. So this is where the crux of it absolutely is. Walk with spirit, walk with faith. And anything that happened, okay, but I remember the name because just go direct, you know, keep it simple. We start cat has sense. Vernie says, how does this energy interact with retrograde? Very good question. I am and was finding a lot of aggressiveness Mars retrograde. Mars retrograde, yes, indeed, a very good question. 10 points to Gryffindor. Um, Mars retrograde is, and I noticed this a lot. I'll tell you what's going on in my online game in a bit because I use it to kind of also mention of the term. Is it does energies that have to do. When I say shadow, I mean unprocessed energies that have to do with the way they act, the way they move, the way they assert themselves. So people are struggling with the karmic weight of all of the stuff that is hitting them at this time. This is generally true post 2012, but especially true right now. Mars just does not know what to do with itself. So it's a very good question, Bernie. Cosmic Goal says, just letting you know this major glitching and lagging with your video. This happens. This is honestly, there's nothing I can do about it. Because if I were to sit and tell you about my online game or about my baby cats, the video will be fine. But when I actually tell you important things, lag, 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 lag. So trust that the vibe will reach you. Don't worry about it. Angel of Truth says, dearest priestess, high from far away and much love. So sad it's so much lag. The internet does not like truth. Seriously. If I start talking to you about anything else, it will work. But the moment I actually bring in the vibe, and remember, when I speak to you, I control my vibe to this extent. It's very, very focused so I can actually speak to you on this channel. So, it's even then, it is very disrupted. These technologies are useful up to a point. But anywho, hopefully I'll be able to get back to full speed, and there'll be more pre-recorded videos as well, but I can't promise anything right now. The health situation is the health situation. But as I said, if you do want some guidance at this time, my booking slots are open, but I have to pace myself very carefully. Yeah, you can just drop me a line if you need some guidance that way. But ultimately, I think I've covered the most important points without the lag, hopefully. Jenna says, I have Mars in Cancer natal, so it's always hard, but this Mars retrograde has actually been great for me. Yeah, for some people born in a retrograde seasons actually feel a lot better. That's a very good exception. Thank you for bringing that up. Angel of Truth says, I love your videos and your connection, but yeah, it doesn't like the truth. It doesn't. That if there are flags, you believe it. See, it seems until taken over. And if you get, is it on? Is it working? Is it working? Has it disappeared? See, I'm not. Has it disappeared? See, I'm not answering a question. I'll be very quick in it to your heart, to your body. Even if that goes, something doesn't feel right. Have dealt with these false energies in their body for a long time. I'll ask them, why are you upset with the World Cup? I'm sorry, I haven't been. Can someone watch FIFA Uncovered on Netflix and the anger need to work acceptance? Okay. Okay, anger. I'm being upset about something that is wrong in the world. That's natural. If you didn't reach, then other than just angry, take action. Anger, you need to take action. And once you have done what you can need to do to get then on. That's where between says about this is budget and horror interference BS from the ocean here. Probably. Tanya says, damn, the glitches are quite high this week, holding on in message given. So right now I'm just, focusing on the questions, so to speak. Are there any other questions before I wrap up? Otherwise, end the call. If there's a question that you let's see, no, no questions. Uh, no, I don't use a router. I don't use a router because I have had to move so much. It just makes more sense to be using mobile Wi-Fi. Simply, it's stuck. Not much I can, and I'll get back to you. Either way, thank you all very much for your patience. The main message has been given. Take care, very many blessings, and lots of love to everyone. Ciao, ciao for now. Bye bye.